Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, folks, it is your old buddy Luke Clayton and my good friend and your good friend, Mr. Larry Weissoon. Mr. Whitetail is with us for, I think it's been, well, I know it's been 18, going on 18 and a half years that Larry's been with us here in Campfire Talk every week. Larry, thank you, buddy, for being with us and all those 18 fun years that we've had on the radio.
Look, I have loved every second of it. I'll tell you, I keep saying this, and I'll say it one more time. This is the most favorite thing that I get to do every week is to be with you and all of our listeners out there. Truly, truly appreciate being here with you. But, you know, I'm very fortunate. I work with a lot of different companies, and I have to mention, though, because of that, we have been able to be together all these many years. Of course, that includes DSC, which is Conservation Education Hunter Advocacy, Hornady, Accurate, Deadly, Dependable, Mossberg, whose rifles and shotguns are made in Texas down close to Eagle Pass, Taurus, the Raging Hunter handguns that I shoot, and occasionally the Rossi lever action rifles as well too. And of course, then we got Stealth Vision just down the road a little way from where you live up there in Northeast Texas.
Yep.
Who makes the unbelievable scopes and spotting scopes and binoculars and all those other things. And then of course we got we got Paul and Kurt and Ricky with over at VINEYARDMAX that does the VINEYARDMAX deer bait, but also game feeders. And I feel so fortunate they also sell my Larry Weissoon or Weissoon Whitetail knives. So they're all in Texas. And let's talk a little bit. I was recently up your way. And when I did, one of the things I noticed, if there was a lake anywhere, and even sometimes when there wasn't a lake relatively close, every bridge that I came to, there was a line of cars on all 4 sides of that thing, if you will, all 4 sides of the bridge, you know, going north, going south, come from the other side, going south and going north kind of thing. And obviously they were fishing because I could see them, and I am assuming they were after white bass.
You know they were, Larry. I wish I had a concession on Highway 34 coming to and from our rendezvous a couple weeks back. Yes. There in Greenville. Highway 34 is the route I take. So that's Caddo Creek that feeds Lake Tawakoni, runs there. There's 2 major creeks there, but Caddo, I wish I had a concession for parking there where I could charge $2 a car. There was, I don't know, those people were parked where they'd have to walk a quarter of a mile to get to the creek. And I told my wife, I said, let's slow down. She said, what are you looking for? I want to watch somebody catch some white bass. And then I slowed down over that bridge on Caddo. Sure enough, a guy right there was pulling one in when we went by. So the white bass spawn is on. A little update on that. Not only just in Northeast Texas, but any lake in Texas for sure, and other states too, but
right.
Mostly, in Texas, Oklahoma, even in Arkansas. A lot of folks listen to us up in Arkansas too. But if you live anywhere close to a reservoir with a healthy population of white bass, it is game on time right now to get you a little Roadrunner jigs or maybe beetle spins, anything that's, or really just a soft plastic on a jig head. The only problem with those, if you don't keep them reeling, they'll drop down, Larry, and they'll hang up on you. But those little spinner baits, that little prop kind of just keeps it up off the bottom. So Yeah, I mean, you're not far, friends, from a lake or a reservoir that's probably got some really good white bass fishing. You know, at our rendezvous, now this all the white bass run kicks off, Larry, you know this, but in different parts of the state, different times. Down in your neck of the woods on the Trinity, it's got going. Actually, 3 weeks ago they started catching white bass in the Trinity above Livingston. You know, Lake Livingston.
Yes.
And but say up north on the Sabine, it just really got kicked. It's just now going really well. So I think probably for the next couple of weeks and longer in places, it's going to be strong, the white bass run, and it sure is a whole lot of fun, isn't it? You know, getting up in those creeks or even rivers, small rivers, and catching those things.
You're exactly right. And of course, they're so delicious to eat on top of everything else as well, too. But, you know, also, since we're talking fishing, and, you know, I love to fish. I don't get a chance to do it as much as I want to because I'm always doing something with hunting. But I've been hearing a whole lot of people catching some really big bass as well, too. In Texas, we have the share lunker program, and if you catch a 13-pound bass, I understand, you know, they try to utilize those, I'm sure, in breeding programs and that kind of thing as well. But there's a couple of those that have been popping up here just very recently, and I think when we were there at the rendezvous, somebody told me they just caught a 13-plus pound bass there in Tawakoni, Lake Tawakoni.
Yeah, I wasn't talking to that guy, but yeah, Alan Ballard from Alan is a good longtime friend of mine. He guides up at Pat May's, and that's up north of Paris. But he was singing the praises of Bodark Creek there.
Yes,
the new
that's
lake.
A new lake, isn't it?
It is. It's only been open for a year or so, I guess. But Pat May's is just a beautiful lake. You can imagine that country between Paris and the Red River up in there.
Gosh.
It's pretty country. Not far from where I was raised, actually. But Bodark Creek up there, it's over, I believe, it's the county is Fannin, but it's west of Paris, 40 minutes probably. He is really crappie and everything else. He is hammering them. Alan Ballard is up there. So, yeah, if you like to fish, I mean, hunting, as far deer hunting is a done deal this year at the end of February. That's
yes,
when
sir.
You were there till the last minute. I'm proud of you.
I hung in there till the last moment. You're exactly right.
Yeah, folks, I was talking, Larry, he's over at our friends, the Cottons, over in, it's the east of Kaufman on Cedar Creek. That's where their land is, and awesome hunting, awesome people. And I was getting ready for the rendezvous. I didn't get to join them over there. I missed doing that, but had a lot of irons in the fire, as we say. And I was talking. Larry had texted me, and he's got some more big doe for the freezer, and also helped the management plan. You needed to remove a doe. That was part of the plan. But you would text me, and I said, sundown is in 40 minutes or whatever. I was thinking,
yeah, you did. You gave me the official sundown.
That's right.
You mentioned Mr. Ballard with Ballard Guide Services, and he very graciously has donated a fishing trip for crappie or bass or catfish as well, to our upcoming DSC Foundation Gala, which will be in the middle part of July there at the Gaylord in Dallas, or actually in Grapevine, I guess it
Grapevine,
is. And really want to thank him for doing that. We've Luck of the Irish, Mr. Omar Cotter, did the same thing. And want to just remind people about that. DSC Foundation is the granting arm of Dallas Safari Club, and I serve as an advisor there after having served on the board. But just in last year alone, we gave away $1.2 million to very stoutly, longly vetted projects that are going on here in North America and a few across the rest of the world too. And just want to invite everybody to that particular gala. It's going to be like a mini DSC show this year in July, and they can learn more about that by going to dscf.org. So it's going to be a lot of fun event. So want to invite people to come out there, and if they can, if they want to hunt fish with Mr. Ballard, any several other things, there'll be a good opportunity, and that money
Yeah.
goes to great projects that are going on throughout the world in a way to really, truly support conservation.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Larry. Both of those, Omar Carter with Luck of the Irish Guide Service and Alan Ballard up there, both of those are top-notch guides. They've been guiding a long time, been fishing all their lives, but they're also very nice people to spend time with in a boat. Whoever fishes with them, they'll come back happy. And
yes.
I'll tell you something else that I'm fired up about is of course, we both visited with Bill Carey with Striper Express.
And Bill's donated a fishing trip as well too.
Yes,
my gosh,
I thought he
for him
had.
and Chris.
Yeah, I thought so. Of course, we're such buddies with Bill and Striper Express. All those friends, we fish with them quite, throughout the year. But I thought Bill had done that too. That's good. But those stripers, we're talking about white bass, sand bass, but the striper spawn is going on, and at Texoma. Texoma is such a huge reservoir that it's not like all of them run up the Red or the Washita at one time. Like the West Arm over there, it's bigger than most lakes, Well, those fish move at a different time than the ones, say, at Alberta Creek up near the Oklahoma end of it. So, so the striped bass fishing and our friends at Bill calls them 806ers, but all of you up there in the Panhandle, if you want some fun fishing, striper fishing, striperexpress.com, you want to check with them. We're going to go up there. It's not too much farther, but the topwater bite will start in another month, 6 weeks, and that's always so much fun, Bill. I mean, Larry, and old Bill, he's he and his son Chris and that whole crew up there, just a lot of fun to fish with, and we always bring a bunch of fillets back to cook at camp,
Absolutely, we do, and I am most appreciative of that, because those stripers are really good to eat on top of everything else, and it's so much fun to catch.
Yeah, Larry, how about I've got Jerry Hancock coming up to talk about a crappie tournament. Got him scheduled. Scheduled to call in next, but after that. I'd like you and I if you could stand by, I'd like us to talk about deer leases. This is the time of year when people are, they're looking for deer leases. They really are for various reasons. Maybe their first deer lease, or maybe the land that they're on sold, or whatever. So let's talk about some tips that may help someone looking for a deer lease. How about that? Could you come back and do that?
I'd love to, Luke. I'll be back with you very shortly.
I want to tell you about a one-stop shop for everything related to game feeders and fish feeders, Ultrimatic Feeders. I've been using components and feeders from Ultrimatic Feeders for 20-something years, I guess. They have the remote, which you can remotely activate your feeder with, the timer, which is the most simple timer that I've ever found on a game feeder, and then the eliminator. Check these out. They are worked on centrifugal force, and they seal off the corn supply so coons and squirrels can't get to the corn. Check them out. Ultrimatic Feeders, you can go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com. Folks, I want to introduce you to VINEYARDMAX. Now, this is an awesome deer attractant, a food attractant that's made with hammer-milled grape skin, dried hammer-milled grape skins. It has a mixture of rice bran and also corn chops. Very effective. Deer can smell the scent of grapes from a long way, and it brings them in. I've used it in West Texas out with Larry Whitesoon, and we were out there where deer are not even exposed to grapes, and they came right in. Also, VINEYARDMAX has a very good line of game and fish feeders. Check them out online, vineyardmax.net. Friends, I want to tell you about an awesome camping destination, Wind Point Park on Lake Tawakoni. It's over on the far east side, kind of the northeast side of the lake. It's a pristine park. You can go there and view, I think they estimated a couple of hundred deer on that couple of hundred acres there. Cabins, beautiful RV park, fishing piers, docks. It's got everything you'd want in an outdoor destination. Check them out online at windpointparktx.com. Friends, Mr. Larry Weissoon is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34 millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is leveled because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro, catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, our next guest is a longtime friend of mine, Mr. Jerry Hancock. Now, Jerry has been guiding for tournament crappie fishing. He's won a bunch of big tournaments. But there's a tournament coming up real soon, and that's the one we're going to talk about. Jerry, thank you for being with us, buddy.
Luke, I appreciate you having me on. Been a while.
It has, yeah.
Good to talk to you.
Well, we've been friends for I don't know how long, decades. I know that much.
Yeah.
But so tell us about the upcoming tournament, and you and Mr. Travis Decker now own CrappieFest. Y'all are the owners of CrappieFest, and it's a fun tournament on Lake Fork. I was there last year. Larry Weissoon was there with me, my buddy Larry, and then Jeff Rice. Jeff actually filmed the event last year. But it's a fun thing, and it's even going to be bigger this year, I understand, you know?
Yes. Travis and myself, we took ownership of it last year. Jadon and Rhonda Reeves had been running it for the first 10 years through Crappie Anglers of Texas. And they decided that they were going to move on and do some other things. And we did not want to see this tournament go away. We wanted to make sure it stayed on Lake Fork and continued. So we took control of it. And we got Cassandra Gann, which her husband, Clay Gann, is a crappie guide and a tournament fisherman. Mm-hmm. We got her on board to help. She had ran a tournament back in last fall on Lake of the Pines and did an amazing job. One of the best tournaments I'd ever been involved with. So we got her on board, and she's a godsend. She's just so awesome at what she does, going out and reaching and getting sponsors and vendors. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, but it is March 29th on Lake Fork. It's always the last Saturday in March. It'll be at Lake Fork, the SRA boat ramp, the new facility they built, which is, if you haven't been there, it's really nice. 6 boat ramps and a big pavilion. We really kind of blew it up this year. We're calling it a festival. We've got 50 vendors going to be there. All kinds of vendors for barbecue. We've got homemade ice cream. We've got pony rides for kids. There's other things for kids. We've got live music. So people can come out, spend the day and shop and look at some of our tackle vendors. There's going to be boats, Sarton Marine and S2 Marine and Diamond Sports all over here on Lake Fork's going to have some boats out there. This is, our title sponsor this year is Bobby Garland Crappie Baits. They've really stepped up big time, and they're our title sponsor. We've got 99 sponsors. I'm not going to go through all of them.
No.
But we've got some really cool stuff, Luke. What it is, it's a big fish tournament. You weigh in one fish, pays 20 places, top 20. First place is $5,000. But there's a $10,000 bonus for if there's a 3-pound fish caught. The largest 3-pound fish in the adult side pays a bonus of $10,000. If you catch a state record, there's another $10,000 bonus. So you could win $25,000 if you caught that fish. On the kids side, there's 2 kid divisions, and with this year we've stepped up, and there's also a $10,000 bonus on the kids side. And what we're doing on the kids side, we're doing like scholarships. We're going to do CDs at a local bank up here. So the money for the kids side will be put in their name at a local bank up here. So when they turn 18, they'll have a pretty good little check sitting in there waiting for them. We've got raffle tickets. We've got about 18 or 20 guide trips, plus we've got Big Green Eggs donated. We've got a lot of products that'll go in the raffles. And one of the coolest things that I feel like we're doing that kind of started, Tim Rustad Construction is one of our big sponsors. He wanted us to do something for the veterans. And so there is another side. Veterans will receive a raffle ticket that's free. And we've got about 20 guide trips and several $1,000s donated to the veteran side. So we will draw tickets for, if you're a veteran and you fish the tournament, you're going to be in that drawing. So, I mean, there's just a lot of ways to win. We've got exact weights. You know, like somebody weighs a 1 pound even crappie, that's going to pay $500. Up to 2 pounds, we will do exact weights. We've got 6 $500 golden tickets, we call it, that if you're in it, you're going to get a golden ticket, and we'll draw 6 lucky anglers. Will win $500 that way. We've got a lot of different, you know, Bobby Garland's throwing an extra 500 on if you win using their baits. We've got Outlaw Pose is going to donate 500 if you win with one of their rods. Power Breaks has the same bonus. If you have them on your boat, you win. There's a ton of ways. And what's cool about this, Luke, is it's open to everybody. You can fish off the bank, out of a kayak, off a dock. You can wade fish. You know, you can fish any way you want to fish. Nobody's left out on this. So we want to, you know, everybody bring their family and everybody, and because this is a chance to walk across the stage against some pros that'll be fishing it, and a chance to beat some pros. You know, you get up there and beat them, because you just got to catch one fish. There's a lot of luck involved, you know.
That's it. Oh, yeah. I mean, literally anyone could win. You know, Jerry, last year, J. Don Reeve, he's been a friend of mine for a long, long time, but I was there at that pavilion is just awesome. I don't think you could find a better place. It's not a jumbled up marina at all. There's plenty of parking. It's just a big open area thing in that pavilion. I think it's only a year or two old, so I don't think you could find a better place to have it. You know, a lot of tournaments, honestly, they're kind of, which I'm not knocking that, but they, you know, parking can be a problem, and, you know, it can be crowded up, but definitely not there, you know.
There is plenty of parking. I believe there's parking. I think the SRS is for 1,500 vehicles in the parking area out there.
Yeah.
There's plenty of room to park your boats and trucks and just park. And, you know, the SRA really stepped up building this facility. It's, you know, they have the Bassmaster Elites come to Fork usually every year, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew. So that's where they host that Bassmaster tournament. And they have they put up stages and have big concerts, and yeah, they really stepped up in the facility. It's pretty impressive when you go out there and see what a great job that they've done to showcase Lake Fork, and, you know, build this for the anglers and the people that want to come see stuff. We couldn't be luckier to have a place like this, and they're really excited about having us. So right now, there's really 2 big events a year. It's CrappieFest and then the Bassmasters.
Yeah,
you know?
right there.
So we're glad to kind of be associated with all that, and have a chance to. We're trying to promote crappie fishing and get people out and outdoors and get kids involved. That's why we're really stepping up. Mr. Crappie, Wally Marshall stepped up. He's giving combos to kids that's fishing. Bobby Garland Baits has donated a ton of product to give to the kids, as well as several other people. You know, we're really trying to get kids out in the outdoors. I know you're a big supporter of getting people out and hunting and fishing and outdoors, and it's kind of what this is about. You know, I fish professional tournaments, and when you go to professional tournaments, there's a handful, you know, you've got your same, you know, 30, 40, 50 guys or teams that go fish those things. But a lot of people don't feel like they could go and compete and want to spend the money to do that. It gets pretty expensive. But this is it's $100 entry fee. I want to let that be known for adults. And it's free for the kids. 17 and under is free. So there's no charge for kids. So, you know, for $100, you've got a chance to win $25,000. So, you know, it's not a big investment on the angler side, and with the prizes and stuff we give away, you know, we're wanting to get as many people to walk away with a check and prizes and just see what it's like. You know, maybe somebody shows up for this and watches this year and sees how much fun it is, and they want to come back and fish next year.
Or fire them up, maybe someone that's never fished, and say, wait a minute, this looks like a lot of fun. I need to get a Zebco or whatever and start fishing off the bank. You mentioned about the outdoors. That I want to thank you too, Jerry, for showing up recently down there in Greenville, you and your wife, at the our rendezvous that we've been having, and it's all about those type events. Your tournament, our rendezvous. It's a yearly thing, every first Saturday in March. But it's the reason I'm interested in those type things. It like you said, it gets people. Maybe people that might not even be interested. For instance, at your tournament, you're going to have pony rides for kids and you face painting, a lot of activities for kids. You never know what that might spark in a kid. They might, you know, your next top guide may be one of those kids and say, wait a minute, these people are really having a good time in the outdoors. So you never know what seeds that you might plant on a deal like that. Jerry?
Well, that's what it's about, Luke, planting seeds, you know, and just hoping that we can get people spark their interest. And there's going to be a lot of big name crappie fishermen at this tournament, so people can go and talk, and this is a chance to pin one in the corner and ask questions. They're all going to be happy to talk to you, and there's tackle vendors and manufacturers will be there that you can sit and ask questions. And you're going to see what a great community the crappie fishing community really is. It's we all started with a cane pole on a bank with our grandpa. I know I did, and I'm sure you did too. Watching a cork go under, and that kind of what got us hooked on it. And you know, I've been blessed to turn that into a career for me. That's how I make my living, catching crappie. Which, you know, I'd like to go back to high school and tell my teachers, you know, I did end up fishing for a living, you know.
Right. Well, you know,
that way, you know,
that's true. It's just one facet of the outdoors. And as an old outdoor writer, I get to deal with a lot of people that are like yourself, that are really, really good at, you know, at one facet. We are just about out of time. Jerry, it's easy to register there. People can go to CrappieFest.com, right? CrappieFest.com.
Yes, you can sign up there, and you can even buy your raffle tickets there. And then we will have a sign up from 5 to 6 that Friday, the 28th, at the SRA, and then we will have one the morning of the tournament from 6 to 7. So we will. There's plenty of ways to sign up. If people, you know, go to CrappieFest.com if you have any questions. All the rules and everything's on there. Facebook, if you're on Facebook, there's a CrappieFest Facebook page. My fishing page. One thing cool we've been doing, Luke, every Thursday night we do a Facebook Live, and we've been having different anglers on and different pros and people talking about Lake Fork and fishing. And this week, you know, here, if you'll go back a couple weeks, you can watch. We've got the Lake Fork biologist actually on talking about crappie in Lake Fork, and was a really great interview. Just some crazy things he throws out there about crappie and and kind of educating all of us on the fish that we're chasing. We've got, if you go back in our archives, you can see a lot of really cool videos there. So there's a lot of ways to get involved with this, and CrappieFest.com is probably the most information you're going to find.
You bet. Everything they need to know. Jerry, thank you so much for being with us, buddy. We are out of time, and I'm going to get you back and pick your brain on crappie quite often. How about that?
Luke, I look forward to doing that with you. I always enjoy visiting with you.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at SmokinTex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. For seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's ButcherPackerSupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com.
Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy, Mr. Justin Rudd, and his team of experts, and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, folks, Larry Weissoon is with us. He's been with us many times, but, a lot of people are looking for deer leases this time of the year for various reasons. Owners pass away or land sales and you lose your lease, or maybe you're just looking for your first deer lease, your first hunting lease. I thought it would be helpful to get Larry Weissoon with us, who would know more than Larry about a subject like this, and I've been hunting, leasing land since forever. Talk about acquiring a new lease. Larry, first off, I apologize for taking so much time in the beginning of our show, but thank you for being with us.
It's always a pleasure and honor, Luke, to be with you. You're right, and looking for a deer lease, this is the time when a lot of that happened. Quite frankly, I'm always looking for a lease as well, too, or finding another one or those kind of things. So this is the right time to do it. A lot of places, unfortunately, excuse me, you maybe have lost their, the hunters have decided not to hunt, or the landowner has decided to change hunting lease groups because of certain things that were done or maybe not done kind of thing. So to me, it all comes down to the first question I have is, what area do I want to hunt? Am I looking for a year-round lease? Am I looking for just a hunting lease for deer hunting? Then if it's a year-round lease, does it include the bird hunting, meaning the quail, the mourning dove, and turkey if they're in that area? And then to me, also, it's really great to have some water on some property if you're going to lease it, because if you're going to be out there, you're talking about water hole shooting for doves or even for waterfowl, perhaps, but also it gives you a good excuse if you have water on the property that you're leasing to spend a little time there during the spring and summer and catching some fish and really getting a good idea kind of what's there and learning the lay of the land when you're not messing around on the property for later hunting where you might be spooking deer. But to me, the first thing comes down to is, what can I afford? What's reasonable? What's a reasonable dollar figure that I can come up? Do I have several friends that I can bring in, and are these hunting friends that I can trust to do things the proper way of according to whatever the lease is? And then location, is it 2 hours away? Is it an hour away? Is it 8 hours away? And then beyond that, if it's a long way off, I want to know if there's any kind of facilities on the property that can be used, and if not, say an old hunting camp that can be set up very quickly. Is there electricity and water where somebody can move a trailer in or set up a tent? All those kind of things in that infrastructure are really important as far as I'm concerned. Then I want to know something about the history of that property. I want to know, has that property been leased every other year? Is there a new lease group? And then if that's the case, try to figure out why. And then also, again, going back to, am I interested in primarily hunting big deer? Am I interested in just hunting deer per se? Because a lot of times that's going to make a difference as to what kind of management program that landowner is under. And now in Texas, of course, we have our regular hunting seasons, but then with the managed land deer permit through the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, that hunting for deer can start the 1st of October and end of February. A lot of things there along those lines to start looking with, and then I'll tell you about some other things. You got any questions so far?
No, I'll just keep the button plugged, and you just keep talking. You're right, Larry, and the cost is always, I'll say, for most of us, a primary factor. Now,
I'm going to interrupt you right there. There was a study done not that terribly long ago where they looked at the cost of what people were paying for leases when they really first started doing leases back in the 1950s, 1960s. What percentage of that lease that they paid for, a percentage compared to their annual income. And then they went back and did the same thing here about 2 or 3 years ago. Now, the interesting thing is the cost dollar figure has risen, oh my gosh, probably tenfold. But at the same time, if you look at it, at what are you spending on your hunting lease compared to your annual income, that percentage has not changed very much. It still basically runs around, 8 to 10% that people are paying for a hunting lease compared to their annual income. So even though the dollar figure is scary sometimes, the percentage of what was paid in the past is not that different.
That's true, Larry. I remember back in the first lease that I really took over, or someone is usually one person is in charge of a hunting lease.
Right, and that's the way it needs to be.
It should be that way. And I remember back in '82, up in Jack County, we leased. I hunted as a guest with a good friend of mine that's passed on now, but James Halt was his name. He was a construction guy, and I was a surveyor, and that's how I met him. So he said, "Luke, I want you to come up here and look at this lease, and you might want to get on it. It's okay for you to hunt with me one weekend there." So I went up there, and that was back during, it's awesome. It's a section of land owned by a gentleman out of Wichita Falls, an older fella that was super nice guy. He let us build a little, I'm getting ahead of myself. So when I get excited just thinking about this place because I had so much fun there. That was my first place where it had a lot of turkeys on it. And the deer hunting on a scale of 1 to 10 was okay. You could kill your buck, but you had to hunt for him back in those days. There wasn't overrun with deer, but it was good. So he joined the American Sportsman's Club, him and his wife, back then because he wanted a place to hunt hogs. There were no hogs there back in 82, 83. So he talked to me, said, "Luke, I want you to talk to the owner. I knew the owner by then, but he said, I want to recommend that you manage this lease or take care of it." So I talked to the gentleman, and super nice guy. He was probably in his 80s, early 80s. And so the walking terms were, okay, I want to deal with you, Luke, and you can have, you take care of it. I know you're not going to overrun it with hunters, but I would recommend maybe on this 640 acres, you get maybe 3 others. And I did. But I remember I was paying a little over $900 a year for that lease. This has been 83 is when I actually started doing it. And I had that lease for, 7 or 8 years until he passed away. And guess what? His son-in-law was an attorney. He mailed me about 10 sheets where if anything ever went wrong, it was my baby, and it was more liability than I was ready to handle, and I had to let it go. But we built a little cabin on it. So you need to nowadays we had no contract at all. Me and the older gentleman, the old rancher.
Right.
It was a handshake
deal.
Yes, and I did exactly what he asked me to do. And so, but it's real important to. I'm a firm believer now in. It doesn't have to be stamped by a lawyer, but an agreement on paper that that, so there's no question on what the rules are and what the duties of the leaser are, or the landowner. He's got obligations too. So know up front exactly what you're doing, right? I mean, that's important.
You're right. You're exactly right. When you find that place that you like, spend time visiting with the landowner or his agent, and then write up a contract that spells out just about any and everything. And these days too, we live in an age where it's so easy to sue anybody,
Yes.
kind of thing, whether there's a fact behind it or not. I always advise people, the hunting groups, to get a small liability insurance. They're available through a lot of different insurance companies. We've done them through, particularly through Farm Bureau, because they're very landowner oriented or very land oriented, and those are not very expensive, but they can darn sure be worthwhile if something does happen. But again, be sure that you get a hard copy paper that's signed by everybody. And then too, generally what we do is on these places, when anybody comes on the property, whether it's somebody on the lease, and again, there is one person in charge that the landowner works with, and that individual works with the landowner on things that they might want to change or do, in terms of putting in food plots or any of those kind of things. And it's important to have that relationship between one person and the landowner, and that pays off in the long run as well too. And then one of the things that I do, I want to know the history of the property, and particularly since I'm primarily interested a lot of times in whitetail deer, I want to know what's been taken off. Have records been kept in terms of ages and antler size and weights on does. And then also one of the things that's really important to me is I love hunting mature deer, those that are 4 years old or older. I want to know what those fawn survival rates were, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago through the present. And a lot of times the landowner can give you a pretty good idea, or if not, the local game warden and local biologist that covers that part of the country can give you those kind of figures and what the buck-doe ratio is and what they kind of recommend in terms of what the deer density is. And then always in all the contracts that I've helped write and that kind of thing, there was always a statement in there that annual game surveys will be done, and that basically the harvest recommendations will be based on those, including fawn survival rates and buck-doe ratios and density, and what the long-term goal is of both the hunter and the landowner. And again, if for some reason that land is sold, there needs to be a clause in there that says that lease group can either hunt that in coming hunting season, or they lose whatever it is, and or it's a prorated thing as to if I paid a lease in February and all of a sudden the hunting is gone, what percentage do I get back of that dollar that I paid for? That's to protect the hunters, if you would, kind of thing. And the best way to find leases is there's all kinds of sources, but what we've done in the past is we're fortunate we know a lot of different landowners, and a landowner may call you and go, hey, I got it. Old Joe next door is fixing to lease his land for the first time. Or, there's a lease available there. And two, I found that a lot of times, a lot of the country feed stores will have a bulletin board. And if a guy's got a lease coming up, kind of thing, it's not uncommon for him to put a little note there that says, I've got 600 acres I want to lease, and my phone number is so-and-so.
That's true. Yep.
And then, call the guy, look at the property, look at it very close, find out, spend time with that landowner or that agent that handles that. And, again, learn, is there a camp? Can we put up a camp? Can we do this? Can we do that? Ask thousands of questions, and then put all those questions down on paper and ask them and have them, get the answer. And then when you get that contract written up, include what's there. Be very, very specific about what can and can't be done, including such as being able to bring in guests, or is it just those people on the lease? There's so many little things there that will make that lease so important to you over a period of time. And great place. I've been on several leases in the past, and you create all these great memories, and particularly a lot of times with bring your family out, and be sure that that's okay with the landowner before you do those kind of things.
That's right. We have less than a minute left, Larry. I wish we had about 4 hours for this week's show. One other thing I will mention: we're talking about landowners and hunters, hunter to hunter. Whoever's managing that group needs to be real clear about things like, okay, we can hunt each other's stand. It sounds menial, but it gets important.
It's
important.
Can
we hunt anywhere we want to? That kind of thing. Larry, thank you so much for being with us. And, we'll get you back real soon again, and we'll talk some more hunting and try to help some folks.
Already looking forward to it.
For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, CVA.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use, you can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas, and VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, what do you say we talk about deer feeders, game feeders, or fish feeders with someone that knows a great deal about them, Mr. Paul Moore? Now, Paul is a great friend of mine, but he owns VINEYARDMAX, and they make an awesome deer attractant. You've probably hear us talking about VINEYARDMAX every week, but they also make an awesome line of quality game feeders. And I've got some questions for Paul that I bet you might ask, and that's what we're going to do. Paul, thank you, buddy, for being with us.
Oh, Luke, thank you again for having me and us being able to kind of pick up where we left off from the last segment.
Yes,
Looking
sir.
Forward to it.
You bet. You were with us here a few weeks ago. Don't you think it'd be helpful if we cover some topics that might help people when they're looking for game feeders? And this might be, hopefully, once they understand the quality of the VINEYARDMAX game feeders that you have, I'd like to see them take a hard look at them. But any game feeder they're buying, let's break this into a couple of different topics, if you will. One of them, let's talk about the container that's going to hold. Just keep it simple with corn. That's most people you feed corn for deer attractants, you know. So the primary thing, in my opinion, is dry. You want that container to keep that corn dry, because if you've been like old Luke 100 times, you've been digging that caked up stuff out of those feeders that are not dry. So the VINEYARDMAX feeders are dry. Tell us how you make them and keep them dry. To me, that's a big part, you know?
So there's really two main things about the container itself. Number one, all of the containers that we use, whether it's our barrel type feeder that we do in a 55 and an 85 gallon drum, or whether it's our box type feeders in our larger capacity, 800 pound protein and 1,300 pound corn broadcast feeders, there are no rivets, Luke. There are no rivets. There is no place that water can get in. We weld everything. And on our barrel feeders, we just don't penetrate that barrel at all. And then on our box style feeders, they're just all welded. That's the one thing. Another thing is extremely important is what type of lid you put on top of that. And on our barrel feeders, we use a really, really heavy duty galvanized lid with about a 4 to 4.5 inch drop around it, lip around it, that really seals the top of that feeder off really well. We get those from Ultrimatic Feeders over in Hockley. But those two things, and then our larger capacity feeders, we build the lids for those, and again, make them where they're watertight. But those are the two main things on the container that are extremely important.
I'm going to bring up a topic on the lids, and you and anybody that's fooled with feeders for a long time, like we have. Do you remember the old feeders that were just made with a regular barrel with that I guess the lid that came on the barrel with that clamp thing around it?
Yes,
that band around it. Oh my God!
We've used those some in the past.
Yeah, you remember those? I mean, you
Yes.
seldom ever see them anymore. But the modern way, the best way, is like that galvanized lid. It seals the top of that barrel off, and it's pretty easy. All you got to do is just bump it from 180 degrees either side with the palm of your hand, bump it up and take it off of there and put your corn in. So a dry container, absolute paramount important. You got to have it. So got that. Now, you're talking to somebody, as you know, Paul, I go back to nailing a can on a tree and putting corn in it back when I was real young. And I went through the gamut of deer feeders back. You remember the type that had the pins that you suck in them? You remember those?
Oh, yes.
Wasn't that a nightmare, you know?
Yeah, and then the ones that were dawn to dusk.
Yeah. I mean, when did it go off? You'd be sitting there. Many hours I spent, many days, on those dawn to dusk. Well, when's it going off? And half the time it wouldn't even go off if it was cloudy or whatever. So those
That's
days,
right.
thank goodness, are behind us. Now, let's get to what I call the guts of the feeder, the mechanics of it. You get all your parts from our mutual friend, Carl Harmon, with Ultrimatic Feeders. And the timer and the motor, all that is the most important. It's equally important with keeping the feed dry to know that when you set that feeder and you drive 3 hours back home, it's going to go off at the right time. And the quality, tell us about the what makes the feeder dependable, the parts that make it work, Paul.
So over the years, we have used different brands of timers, and we've done different things there. But I will tell you, over the last 3 or 4 years, we only put the timer from West Texas Feeder Supply and Ultrimatic Feeders on our feeders. That's all that we use, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, they're very easy to program. 6 settings. Run out for 20 seconds per setting if you need to go out that long. Most people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Most people just run them for a few seconds.
Yep.
But there's a lot of flexibility there with the programming. It's very simple to program, and they're extremely reliable. And they also have a 5-year warranty on them. And so that's all that we use are the timers. We only use a 12-volt motor. We don't use 6-volt motors. The 12-volt motors seem to hold up longer, better duration as far as the longevity of that motor, and it also slings the corn really, really well. So those are the two things. We use a powder-coated box that we also get from Ultrimatic Feeders to contain everything and to keep the squirrels and the raccoons out of that box. And we just put a little tie or something on that mechanism to keep it from opening up, or a little carabiner or something like that. But and then we also, our feeders come standard with a swing gate, a spinner plate, but we also offer the eliminator spinner plate as well.
You know, Paul, I remember when Carl Harmon first introduced me to the eliminator. I use it on all mine. You don't have to have it, but what it does, folks, it works on centrifugal force. And when that powerful motor comes on and starts spinning that spinner, well, it just opens up and lets the corn out. And then when the revolution's slow, it seals back up tight.
Yeah, it's a great product. I will also say this, that I think is also equally important when we're talking about the structural components of a feeder. On the VINEYARDMAX feeders, we, for a long time, Luke, built our own varmint cages. We made them out of horse panel, and we welded them together, and they were great. But as we grew and production demands grew, we needed to come up with a better way to do that. And now we use a company over in Terrell, Texas, that makes HEB shopping carts. And we use a 4-gauge wire that they build shopping carts out of, and they make our varmint cages. And I think, especially in Texas, varmint cages are so important, not only to keep the raccoons and the squirrels and those critters out, but to protect that very expensive motor assembly and lower unit that we have there from the hogs and the cows. And we actually put our solar panel on that lower unit itself, so everything is protected by that heavy duty varmint cage. Very important thing to do.
It is. It protects the guts. I call it the guts of the unit, and having that, having all that stuff in one spot with the solar panel. That's something we can also touch on, because I've got some of these units that I've had for a long time. And honestly, with a good fresh battery hooked to a charged up battery put in with the solar panel, I've had some last for several, I think 2 or 3 years, the batteries, which might be rare, I don't know, but I know for 2 years I have the same battery, and maybe 3. And I thought, when's this thing going to, wear out? But I guess it might be a good idea occasionally to, I don't know, during the summer or something, to pull the battery and charge it on a charger, or is that even necessary?
I don't know that that's 100% necessary, as long as that is out in good sunlight, you're getting good charge from the solar panel. But I will say this, on the regular lead type batteries that a lot of people use and that we have always used because they're inexpensive, you get about 500 cycles out of that battery, irregardless about the solar panel. I mean, the solar panel is going to keep it charged. It's going to keep you from having to go charge it. But that battery is going to only last so long. One of the things that we have seen kind of change in the with the way that people are using batteries and the batteries that they're purchasing, there's kind of becoming a shift, Luke, over to lithium batteries. They used to be cost prohibitive. A lithium battery for a feeder could cost you $90, $100 in the past. And now we can get high quality lithium batteries that offer 5,000 cycles versus 500, and we can offer them to customers for around $50.
Oh, man.
And you talk about putting a lithium battery on that feeder, now you're looking at 5 or 6 years of getting not having to do anything to the battery itself.
Yeah, I know the technology with lithium is really advanced in the last few. That's amazing. Well, what we want to do is connect people with VINEYARDMAX. We've got time here to do that. I'd like you to leave the website, and the feeders are available. A lot of dealers across, and if someone wanted to handle them, they could contact you through your website if they wanted to stock the feeders. But I will say this, friends, these feeders, you're not going to find a better deer feeder or one that's more trouble-free. Put this rascal out, put corn in it, and go home and come back, it's going to be working. How do they contact you, Paul, or learn more about them, you know?
So, Luke, the best way to contact us is vineyardmax.net. That's our website, and there's an email link on there. Or we can also be called at 936-205-0068. And not only are our feeders high quality, they're affordable as well. So just please check them out online and find the dealer close to you.
And I will conclude with this, folks, that Paul is a great friend of mine, and Kurt, the kingpins there at Vineyard Max, but their customer service is second to none. You get one of these feeders, Paul, you guys are known for taking care of people. So I want to leave everybody with that. And thank you very much for shedding some light on game feeders, Paul.
Oh, Luke, it's always a pleasure to be on with you, and I hope you have a great day, and thank you for having me this morning.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you had a good time, too. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.